I've got one flame to burn, one race that I can say I ran.
Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the 21047.com podcast. My name is Keith Cartwright. I am the host of this show, and I'm really glad to have you along listening in today, wherever it is that you're listening and whenever it is that you are listening in. Today's episode is sponsored by my dear friend Christy Allen. Christy has been supporting this show and this effort for a long time now. Christy came on board way back in the beginning of 2017 when I launched this project. I have interviewed Christy a couple of times on this show, and she is a delight to have as a guest. She's certainly a delight to have as a supporter. I am always grateful to have her in my corner. So thank you, Christy, so much for all you have done for this show and just helping me run to dark with the light that we have found in our running journeys. You and I share a common faith journey, so I know that has been a light to many. If you are interested in learning more about how you can support this effort and become a sponsor of one of the podcast shows, you can visit my Patreon page. Just go to my website, 21047.com, TWOTIM47.com. Click on the Support Me tab. Scroll on down and you will find some information, including a link to the Patreon page where you can see various levels of monthly support financially that you can offer to back this effort. My hope is to always continue to grow the reach of this podcast, my writing, the running journey that is me stumbling along wherever I go. Next weekend, I will be stumbling along at the Marine Corps Marathon, taking on my fourth marathon. Why am I? That's not a good sign. I'm struggling saying marathon, and I'm going to try to run one next Sunday. This will be my fourth marathon attempt. I've completed 2, came up a little short at Houston. The Marine Corps Marathon here is going to have a similar challenge as Houston, a 6-hour time limit. And that's 45 minutes faster than I've ever run a marathon. But anyway, I'm feeling fairly confident about that. Weather's looking a little rainy and chilly, which is right up my marathon running wheel well comfort zone. So I'm ready. Anyhow, today's episode, I'm interviewing a young lady. So not too long ago, I interviewed Hannah Wierzbinski. And then it was sometime after that interview, Hannah's mom, Karen Rush, a childhood friend of mine, told me about the story of one of Hannah's friends, also a runner, had a life of loving running. She was involved in a diving accident, and then suddenly the possibility she would never run again entered her life. And that was a real struggle for her, but some really neat things happened in that struggle. She gained the wisdom of an adult, which you'll find out in this interview. And I don't know, this young kid can help us. And I'm sorry I say young kid, but everybody's a young kid to me. She's a young college student, young woman. But her story in terms of keeping life kind of in perspective, not letting this running identity that many of us have overrun who we really are in this life. And she brings a lot of wisdom to this conversation. So I am really happy to have the opportunity to let you hear Kylie Husman's story, a story of sort of thinking she was going to lose out on her running journey and then come back to life in this running journey, and in a way where she powerfully helps somebody else come into this running world. So without rambling on too much longer, I want to go ahead and turn you over to my interview with Kylie Husman. And I want to welcome Kylie Husman to the 21047.com podcast. So welcome, Kylie.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so I met you indirectly through my friend's daughter. So Karen Rush, her daughter Hannah Wierzbinski, and I interviewed her not too long ago. And then my friend Karen told me a little bit about your story, and I thought, I think I need to talk with Kylie too. So I'm glad to have you on here today. So I want to read you have a fundraising page that we'll eventually talk to, but I want to read something that's on that page, and then you and I can talk about that. And what you wrote on that page was, just under 2 years ago, I was in an accident that almost took away my ability to run. Prior to my accident, I defined myself as a runner, and when I was told I may never run again, I had to appreciate the body that I had and focus on what I was still able to do and not what I couldn't. Up until that point in my life, I was unaware of what a beautiful gift I had been giving, an able body with the ability to run. I did not lose my ability to run, and therefore I want to make it possible for others to feel the freedom I do when I run. So the first thing I want to touch on, you said prior to your accident, and we'll talk about that, but you said you defined yourself as a runner. Where did you get your start running? When did you develop this appreciation for running?
Well, my mom growing up, she's done a marathon and a couple half marathons. So I grew up with a mother who has a group of women who she goes out and runs with and still does. So I was just brought up in a family that I had a positive outlook for running. It wasn't something that, people say, oh, I hate running. My mom had a positive outlook. So around the 7th grade, I just started jogging a little bit, went out with my mom. And then once I got faster than her, I just would run to clear my head, and I started picking up more miles. And I did join cross country in high school, and I was on the JV team, but I loved it. And it's just something that I do for myself, and that I can go out and enjoy nature, and it's just very fulfilling for me.
It's interesting. You said even, it sounds like at a young age, you went out running to clear your head. And I'm much, much older than you, clearly. And I've just kind of discovered that power in running, just the ability to get out and de-stress whatever's kind of bothering you. At a young age, how did you discover that running could be helpful in clearing your head, as you said it?
I suffer from anxiety like many people do, and it was just a good way for me to take out my frustration or my worries in a way that was healthy and productive. And so it was just something that I found as a good coping mechanism, and that has turned into a positive thing in my life.
Absolutely. So how far were you running then? Even back in high school, you said your mom was a marathoner. Did you ever have any big, long distance like that in mind at a young age, or did you just stick to shorter runs?
In the 7th grade, it was just 2-3 miles. And then once high school approached, I did a half marathon going into my senior year of high school. And then going into my freshman year of college, that's when I did my first full marathon.
You talked about prior to your accident, you defined yourself as a runner. Talk to us a little bit about this accident that led to you to wondering if you were ever going to be able to do this running that you love so much again.
So I ended up breaking my leg, and I had 4 surgeries right away after the break. And what I did to my leg, the doctors have never seen before. I mean, they were thrilled and excited about this break because it was a new study for them. And right away after my first surgery, I looked at the doctor and I said, will I ever be able to run again? And this was a doctor who just completed a half Ironman, so he knew what it was like to run and be an athlete. And he looked at me and he said, we're not sure. And a couple of days later, they talked about amputation. And at that point, it was just saving the leg. It was almost like, who cares if I run again? But it was more just save the leg because they were going to cut off my leg. But at that point, I just thought, if I can't run, then what's the point? I mean, that was I mean, it got me through anxiety. It got me through so much. And I thought, if I don't have this, then what's the point, you know? So sitting there in the hospital for 10 days was, and not knowing was so hard for me. And that was the start of a very, very long recovery.
And this was if I understand it from my friend Karen, this was a diving accident?
Yep. I jumped off a rock ledge into the water like so many other people that day, and I was just the unlucky one.
And so when you said that I was told I may never run again. I had to appreciate the body I had and focus on what I was still able to do. What were those things you were focusing on at that point, Kylie? Because it sounds like running was so important to you. Like you just said, it had helped you overcome so much. I can't imagine. How did you keep a positive mindset as you were in the hospital and then through the long recovery?
So I had to stay home for a semester from school. The doctor looked at me and said, "There's no way you can go back to school this semester." And I ended up having my 5th surgery during that time. So I was going to physical therapy a couple times a week, and I had my friend's mom who would come, and she would take me to yoga. And I just realized that I can't define myself as a runner, because if running is taken away from me, you know, I can't define myself by something that, you know, some people can't do, you know. And that's when I really started to appreciate the things like, I mean, for example, like reading. I mean, I have my eyesight. I have the ability to do crafts, even though they weren't that good. You know, I just had people around me that supported me, and those are the things that mattered versus, you know, going out and going for a run. If I had to go out and walk, well, so be it. My grandparents lived a mile away from me, and I had a semester at home with my grandparents, and that's something that I will never get back. And I would not take back the accident.
That's amazing. How long was it then after the accident and them telling you may never run again? How long was it before you had an indication that it may be possible to one day run again?
So I got hurt at the very end of August, and I would say I slowly recovered. The nerve slowly recovered. Everything was slowly recovering. So I would say, you know, a couple months, maybe 2 months. And when I did start to run again, I was given a brace. They weren't sure if everything would come back fully. And I still don't have full function of my right ankle. So I have to be careful. But they said that my young age helped, being that things are still active and growing. But it was scary for me, and I'm very thankful to my surgeons and everyone who helped me. But yeah, yeah.
All through that process, were you always in the back of your mind? Were you always? I mean, I hear you say that. I'm glad that the accident, or that I wouldn't take the accident back. You got to spend time with family. It sounds like you started to appreciate some different things that maybe you wouldn't have had a chance to appreciate. But in the back of your mind through all that, were you always sort of pointing towards running again, or did that ever seem more doubtful than at different times?
Definitely. My doctor actually said, the one who first saw me at the hospital, he said, "If you run a marathon, I will come run it with you." Because I said right away, I was like, I have to get back into running. This is something that I can't give up on. And I told him that I was going to run another marathon, and he said, "I will be there to run it with you." He wasn't. That's okay. But right away, I was after that first surgery, I was like, this is not going to be the end. And then when I ended up switching to a different doctor, my goal, I got hurt in August, and my goal that May was to do the half marathon. And he said, I think that would be an excellent goal. So that was my first goal after I got hurt, was to run the Cellcom half marathon. And my mom did it with me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
When did you discover that, hey, this running thing is going to be possible again? Was it a conversation with a doctor? Was it a slow process? Obviously this means a lot to you, so you were always sort of worried or wondering about it. I'm just wondering about the moment when you knew, I'm going to be able to run again.
I think when I was at the doctor's office and they let me walk for the first time, and I had drop foot, and I came home and I showed my dad, and I think my dad might have had tears in his eyes, and he took a picture of me walking for the first time. And I just thought, I'm walking. I don't care if I'm going to run with a limp, because look at everyone else who runs with a disability or handicap. They make it possible. And this is just something so minor. There are so many more huge things in the world, and this little dinky accident will not be something that defines me, and is not going to be something that's going to stop me because of 5 seconds of stupidity. I was not going to let that be what stopped me. So I think probably walking for the first time and seeing myself walk with not a perfect walk, not fully recovered, but I wasn't going to let that be the end.
Now, tell me a little bit, how emotional was that then when you ran that first half marathon? And it sounds like your mom was a huge inspiration to you to even begin this running journey back in when you were younger, the 7th grade, or it sounds like maybe even earlier. What was it like running that half marathon with her, given that there were times you thought maybe that would never happen again?
I will be honest, I was a bit frustrated because after a long time of not being into the running groove, I was not to the point where I was before I got hurt. I mean, I was a little slower, a little more out of shape, but being able to run with her and run with her friends, it was awesome. And coming to the finish line, I did finish before my mom. She told me to go ahead of her, but just having her support and my parents and my sister, that's something that not everyone has, and I am so grateful for it. And they say sometimes, emotional support is just as important as, the physical support of someone. And I do not think I would be recovered to this point if it was not for their emotional support.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just a part of for me, that's been a huge piece of this running journey I've been on, is the running community itself. And it sounds like part of that running community is your own family. But it has been for me, running's been all about a stronger mind and stronger emotions and finding ways to deal with them. And it sounds like that's been a huge part of why you run and why you love it so much. So tell me a little bit about then this Fox City Marathon that you just ran. I believe it was back in September. Now, was this the first marathon you ran since the accident?
It was. It was the first marathon I ran since the accident. And the first time I heard about my Teen Triumph was when I did the marathon previous to getting hurt. And I ended up having I didn't feel well during the marathon, and a woman that was in my Teen Triumph pushing her captain ended up helping me. And I noticed the shirt and I saw the captain she was pushing, and I thought, what an awesome organization you're part of. And I ended up then getting hurt, and that's been in the back of my mind was these angels pushing a captain and giving them this experience. And so
talk to us a little bit about Team Triumph. Tell us a little bit about what Team Triumph is.
It's an organization that gives people who have a handicap, either mentally or physically handicapped, and it gives them the freedom to run. So they have wheelchairs that are almost like a stroller, and they can participate in a 5K, a marathon, triathlons, and they are the captain, and you are their angels who push them. And it's all about them. It's all about their experience. If they want to go fast, they'll find angels that can push them fast, or if you want to go slower and just enjoy it, it's their experience. And it's just something that I thought would be really cool to give back, because they almost took my leg, and I could have been someone in that situation not able to run ever again. And so I just thought it was really important for me to, I can't always run for me. I wasn't always feeling fulfilled, running for myself. So I wanted to run for somebody else.
And so you did that then that's it's a cool story that in your first marathon, one of those angels ended up helping you, and then kind of full circle, you get hurt. You don't know if you're going to run again. You come close to losing your leg and being in the position of one of these captains, and instead you come full circle and you go back out there and turn into one of the angels yourself.
Yeah. Things happen for reasons, and this was a really awesome experience. And the cool thing is that the captains, the money that we fundraise, they don't have to pay for this event. So I was talking to a woman, and she said that this is the only time where her child is relaxed. He had a cognitive disability, and so he hummed and was a bit more excitable, but this was the only time that he was relaxed. And I felt like it kind of related to me. When I run, that's when I calm down, and that's when my anxiety decreases. And when he's being pushed in the chair, and when he has that freedom of running, that's when he relaxes. So this boy is getting the same experience that we are when we run.
Right. And so what did that mean to you then, coming out there? And so you ran that whole 26.2 miles back in September?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What did that feel like, just being a part of that, and did you reflect at all back on your journey where you'd come from over that 26.2 miles?
Yeah. I mean, the boy we were pushing, it was just awesome. I mean, he played Christmas music during it, and he made people laugh. And I just thought, I have this body that I am capable of running, and, it's not perfect, but to give someone else this experience is what it's all about. Like running, it's supposed to be the joy of it and not always about times and everything. It was just I can't even describe it because of how much it meant to me and everything, but being out there with people cheering us on, and it was just awesome.
So now that you are kind of back into the running fold, do you have any big races that you're targeting, or do you want to continue to be a part of these Team Triumph races? Where does your running go from here?
Oh, I would love to be a part of it again. I met a great woman who was actually part of our team that helped push the captain, and she's rather involved in it. So I was talking to her, and we would love to do some shorter races and 5Ks. And I'm actually going out to Idaho, and being that my Team Triumph has different segments all over the United States, I thought it would be cool to see if they have one and maybe do a race out there, and just, do what I can where I am.
Absolutely. You said something, Kylie, that you do the accident again. Is basically what you said. What is it that you've learned about yourself, learned about life through this accident that makes you say that, makes you not only just accept the accident, but see the value in it?
I think it's really helped me to slow down. I feel like I'm always kind of competitive with myself, and I have to get my best time. I have to get my time before, but it's made me realize that, okay, something's happened. You're not perfect. This is what it is, and you can't change it, but you really have to live in the moment. And living in the moment is what my friend's mom preached to me, is be in the present. And I think that's so important because, when we were doing the marathon, just be in the moment, enjoy it. And you're not going to get this time back again. And so slow down and just appreciate it for what it's worth.
I think that's good advice to a lot of us runners. I posted something on Facebook today that really just talked about this idea that too many times me personally, I just tried to run an ultra marathon down in Georgia about a month ago, and I came up short. It was a 35-mile race, and I couldn't finish it. And, I got down because I couldn't complete that goal. But sort of what I was reflecting out loud about today is that there were a lot of other experiences that were a part of that race that ended up being far, far more valuable than that outcome. And a lot of them, just listening to you, a lot of those experiences were, and this was a trail race through these beautiful mountains. So it was taking in nature, like you talked about earlier. I absolutely wanted to use that race just to shine God's light in my life. And so that experience I was able to have. I met a lot of new friends, and I think sometimes we let the times or the distances we're shooting for rob us of that being in the present, that those experiences that are available to us that we sometimes miss because we're so focused on a finish line or a time or a distance.
Absolutely. And when I have a bad day running, I just think I can run, and that's what counts, because that was almost taken from me. And so now I try not to define myself as a runner, because there's more to me than just something I can do. There's more to me as a person than just my ability to run.
Has that come over into your school life and relationships? Have you seen that impact those other areas of your life as well?
I think so. I try to think that there's more value to, my personality or my smile or cheering people up. It just isn't always about, well, I like to run. It's what I do. I want to be known for me and not just, oh, you're the girl who runs a lot.
No. Well, Kylie, I'd say, I talked with your friend Hannah, and I said for a young lady, she sure has an awful lot of wisdom well beyond her years. And I would say the exact same thing about you. I think you are taking a perspective away from this accident that a lot of us older folks could use, and hopefully we'll listen and take some of that from you. I'm really appreciative of you sharing your story with us.
Well, thank you so much.
And any advice to any runners out there who are just getting into this sport? Any advice you'd give them as we close this?
Personally, when I go out, I just try to look around and enjoy nature, enjoy the beauty of it. I think it makes the run go faster. So that would be what I recommend, is just find a trail, find a nice route, and enjoy it for what it's worth, and be present in your run.
Kylie, I'm going to close with that because those are beautiful words. I appreciate your time, and good luck to you as you continue down this road to running and recovery. You're a great inspiration. So thank you, Kylie.
Thank you so much, Keith.
All right. You have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, what a remarkable young woman there, Kylie Husman, and I really am appreciative that she would come on and share what was a difficult journey for her, I am sure, but thankful she shared the lessons learned with us. And again, a young woman who comes at us with some adult wisdom. I love how she put in perspective this running journey. And usually I think it's not until we do become adults and have lived a little bit when we kind of get that wisdom that says, you know, these challenging things that happen in our life, they really aren't so bad. When she said she wouldn't wish the accident away, that she would do it again. That's an old person like me wisdom, and actually wisdom sometimes I struggle to have myself. So I said it when I interviewed Hannah Wierzbinski, and I'll say it after interviewing Kylie Husman, these two young 20-something young ladies. They give me a lot of hope about the future and direction. We watch the news and just kind of hang out in the world some days and can get a negative picture on life that really isn't accurate when you talk with young folks like this who are driven, who are they've just got a lot of perseverance about them. And so it was a lot of fun for me to interview Kylie Husman. So anyhow, I hope you will have a great week. Actually, I'll probably come at you a little later this week with a Marine Corps Marathon preview. Like I said in the introduction, coming up this weekend. Going to go tackle marathon number 4 for my buddy Sid Bush. So we'll talk a little bit about that later in the week. So I hope you will come back between now and then. I hope you get out and get some good runs in. If you are not running, cheer somebody else on. And if running's just not your deal, keep coming back here listening. Maybe we'll talk you into it, okay? Until next time, y'all have a great night.